What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Newbin Network. So after my last build about 2 weeks ago, I got some feedback on the build stating that it wasn't really a team player. It didn't have the debuffs. So in this video, we're going to be diving into my go-to in-game healing build, where this build has all the debuffs, all the buffs that you could ever think of. So this build focuses on delivering solid healing while buffing the teammates and debuffing enemies. So if you didn't see my last video to compare it to this one, check in the description. I'll have the link to the playlist, which then you can find that video. So we're going to get right into it. We're going to be starting with our attributes. So for our attributes, we're going to be prioritizing to maximize our healing effectiveness. So we're going to be taking wisdom essentially for enhancing output healing. And then we're going to be doing some dexterity for the critical sev. You could go with charisma if you wanted to, which would do 410 recharge speed, which is really good. And you could go with constitution for the maximum hit points and action point gain. But like I said, dexterity for the crit sev and wisdom for the outgoing healing. Based on that information, let me know, do you guys go with the same attributes for your healer? Are you also rocking wisdom and dex, or are you going wisdom and charisma or wisdom and con? Let me know. I'll be interested to know. I got about 3 different loadouts for my healer. I showed one about 2 weeks ago. I'm showing this one now. So I got another one to play around with. Let me know what you guys are using. And for my race, I'm running the Wood Elf, which is going to grant me the +2 to wisdom and dexterity. This is also going to give me a 5% bonus to crit strike, enhancing my outgoing heals. Now, I know what you guys are saying. There's probably better options to use for your healing race. However, my healer is also my DPS, so I had to choose something that works for both. So for me, being a dual healer and DPS, the Wood Elf is the best of both worlds. If you are a solo healer, if you're only using this class for just healing, you could choose something else, right? You can go Asimar, you can go Dragonborn, and if you're using it for just DPS, you can go something totally different as well. But for me, this works out for my DPS side and my healing side. Let's get into our powers here. So obviously we're going to be using Eldritch Blast. Doesn't do too much damage, 45 magnitude. However, the third hit on the attack, it does trigger quite a bit of things that we will go over later on in the video. So that's the main reason why we're going to use that. Infernal Sanction, however, this is going to be our main at-will type of heal. It's going to heal for 50 magnitude, so it's not crazy. However, it does provide a shield, so that's also lasts for 20 seconds. So this is the main thing we're going to be dumping on our tanks. They get ready to take a tank buster. We're going to go ahead and hit it with the Infernal Sanction real quick. Give them that sexy shield. As well as you can use this on DPS, right? If you got somebody that's far out in a position they ain't supposed to be, taking some damage, get ready to die, slap a shield on. Our encounters, our bread and butter, in my personal opinion, is going to be Revitalize. This heals allies for 850 magnitude. However, the more people that are in the range of Revitalize, it's going to minimize how much healing it's going to do, due to the fact that Revitalize actually has a hot heal on top of it. So yes, it may get mitigated down to not being 850 magnitude heals. However, you do have a 12-second hot heal that's on top of it. So I think that's a good trade-off. Our second bread and butter encounter is going to be Vampiric Embrace. So Vampiric Embrace does do a little bit of damage to the enemy. That's 200 magnitude necrotic damage. However, it also heals nearby allies for 600 magnitude. This also has a 250 magnitude hot heal on top of it. So Vampiric Embrace and Revitalize, they both do hot heals on top of the heals that they already provide for an additional 12 seconds. And for our last encounter, I know I'm going to catch some heat on it. It's going to be Warlock's Bargain. So this is useful for recovering Soulweaver quickly. Let's say you're in a pinch and you're spam healing, which you shouldn't be, but there's always that chance. You would use this, it will give you some Soulweaver back to be able to cast an additional 1 to 2 heals real quick. Now I know most of you out there that probably gave me those comments about my builds not giving buffs are probably saying I should be using Pillar of Power, and I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you. I use it. It really depends on the group that I'm in. I do use it. All right. Pillar of Power creates a conduit that increases the damage dealt and heals while reducing damage taken. So you pop this down, anybody that steps in it, it will get a 5% damage increase, as well as there will be a 5% increase in outgoing healing if I were to step into it. And then if the tank were to step into it, or the DPS or myself, it would also take 5% reduced damage. So yes, you should be running Revitalize, Vampiric Embrace, Pillar, and Power. However, I do a lot of random dungeons, so I do run Warlock's Bargain because trying to heal randos is a pain. Even with Vampiric Embrace, which can reach everybody, it still tends to force you to spam just a bit. So just being able to have Warlock Bargain and have that little safety net there, it's fine with me. However, for you other Warlock healers, let me know, what is your ideal setup? Are you running the Revitalized Vampiric Embrace Warlock's Bargain, or is it Revitalized Vampiric Embrace Pillar and Power? Or are you running something totally different? Are there still Warlocks out there that run Soulstorm? Right? I use Soulstorm on my shielding side, but not on my hot side and not on my debuffing side. So let me know, what loadout are you running? For my dailies, I'm using Soul Barrier. This is a no-brainer. Pops a shield up, a bubble that everybody steps in. Once you're inside, you get a 10% damage reduction, so you're taking less damage. You use this for a lot of your mitigation checks as well. Inside of it, you get a hot heal of 250, so you pair that with Vampiric Embrace as well as Revitalize. You got tons of healing going there. Things like healing second boss and Demon Web hits is easy, no-brainer. Our second daily is Soul Pact. Now I use Soul Pact more so just to drop big heals on everybody. That's pretty much what it does. There's a 10% damage reduction there still as well, but then this is a one-time heal of 800 magnitude. It does come at a cost of losing 1% of your maximum heal points, but I'm pretty sure if you use this daily, you probably also have either Vampiric Embrace or Revitalize up, which is giving you that hot heal, so it offsets and you don't even notice the 1% health loss. For my class feats, I'm using Shadow Walk, mainly using that for the 2.5 crit strike, and then Soulbound, which obviously is another no-brainer. Whenever an ally within 30 is below 50% health, they receive a 300 magnitude heal. Procs this once every 10 seconds. That's a no-brainer, it's just a free heal. For our feats, we're going with Essence of Power, Soul Reclamation, Soul Theft, From the Brink, and what puts this whole build together, Fate Pact, which gives Vampiric Embrace, Revitalize, Soulstorm, and In Spirit now a hot heal. So that is the powers and counters at wills dailies that I'm using. If you're using something else, I would like to know. So if you're using something other than this, whether it be the feats, class feats, daily encounters, or at wills, let me know. Onto my gear, the most sought after section of this video. This is the section that I got creamed for in the last video, which was my just healing Warlock, but now this is my debuffing Warlock. So let's go over this pretty quickly here. For the helm, I'm running the Enchanted Deathward Coif, providing me that 2400 Forte and 2400 outgoing healing, as well as there's a quick bonus of gaining 0.5% outgoing healing and power every 5 seconds in combat, stacking up to 10 times. So this allows for a maximum bonus of 5% power and outgoing healing after 50 seconds. So yes, there's a little bit of a ramp up right there, but if you're missing or the team is hurting for that 5% at the start of combat or within that first minute, there's a much bigger problem. For the chest piece, which is a new piece compared to the last video, again, if you've not seen that video, go check that out so you can compare and contrast to this one, is the Enchanted Brigadier's Expert's Claws, which is going to provide me that 1538 crit strike, 923 crit severity, and 615 crit avoidance. It's a quick bonus, Menacing Aura, decreases the enemy's defense, awareness, and crit avoidance by 5% when standing within 10 feet of you. So this is a pretty good debuffing chest piece right here. This is only for the Warlock and Bard though, so if you're a Cleric or a Pally, unfortunately you don't get this one. But for Warlocks we do. So here is one piece that was not in the last build, like I mentioned earlier, which is in this one. It's going to give that 5%, which you can think of it as 15%, right? 5% from defense, 5% awareness, 5% in crit avoidance. Just going to allow the team to do a whole lot more damage. For our arms, we're running the Enchanted Deathward Armlets, which is providing 2400 crit severity and outgoing healing, plus a bonus that increases our performance / soul weave maximum gain 20%. This is just going to allow us to be able to cast a little bit more heals. You have a base pool of 1,000, I believe it is. And so now we have a pool that's 20% bigger than that, as well as we're getting that 3.5% Forte, which is going to allow us to recharge our soul weave just a bit more. For weapons, I'm just running right now the Mastercraft Set to Feywood. I don't have The dual guard set, I can have it. I am a master crafter, I could make it, but it's fine with the fate pack. And in case you guys don't know what it is, running the fate pack just gives a buff to the whole group, which is going to give them a +2 base damage boost, +2 overall outgoing healing, and a -2% incoming damage. And if anybody else, which not a lot of people do run the Mastercraft set now, but if anybody else were to run it, like the tank IE, there would be another 2% of this going on. So this stacks up to 5 times, which then allows you to have a 10% bonus to base damage, overall outgoing healing, and incoming damage reduction with a max of 10% if the whole team runs it. A lot of times you see groups run this when something brand new comes out with a brand new dungeon. A lot of times you do see that Mastercraft set come out to give the teams the best chances to complete said dungeon. And once they get more comfortable, get more gear, get a little stronger, the Mastercraft tends to go away. But for a support character, like I said, a healer or a tank, it doesn't hurt to just keep running it. For my boots, I'm running the Enchanted Death Cured boots, which is giving me 2400 crit strike and 2400 outgoing healing, as well as the bonus for them is allowing me to regenerate my Soul Weave 50% faster while on a fire map. So in Houghton Out, it's working for me. Outside of Houghton Out, it's only 7.5% recharge gained, and I also gained 3.5% outgoing healing. So these boots are really just good there to keep that Soul Weave up. Right, here's another change from last video to this video. So our neck and waist piece is going to be the Mirrorlift set. So with the Mirrorlift set, anytime we critically hit an enemy, they're going to take 1% more damage for 5 seconds. Stacks to 5 times. Right, the other option you could run would be the Vistani set, which does essentially the same thing. Whenever you cast a damaging AoE that only hits one target, the target will take 5% more damage. I prefer the Mirrorlift set because doing critical hits is easy, especially with the healer. I'm capped at crit strike, so that's a no-brainer. However, if I'm in an area where there's more than one enemy and the third hit of Eldritch Blast, which is an AoE attack, manages to hit the enemy I'm aiming at and then somebody else, I don't get this buff, right? So I choose to go with the Mirrorlift set. Not only is it a little bit more item level, which is increasing my base damage, which does then increase my outgoing healing, but it's just a lot easier to proc the Mirrorlift set, in my personal opinion, than it is to proc the Vistani set. For our first ring, we're running a Red Dwarf's Ring of Xeraxes. This ring is just going to go ahead and give us 7% more power based on our hit points. So obviously as our hit points drop, we lose some of this power. But as a healer, we shouldn't have to worry about that too much. For our second ring, it's going to be Illustrate's Grace, which is going to give us the same buff as the Vistani set did. So whenever you cast a damaging AoE that only hits one target, the target's defense and awareness will increase by 3.5% for 5 seconds. Now I can tap into both the Mirrorlift and the Vistani here to get it even more on top of what our chest piece is also giving us, reducing the enemy's defense and awareness. For our shirt, we're wearing the Brilliant Flare Fiber shirt. This is going to give me 1.5% outgoing healing for each party member, which is going to be 7.5%. So this is a no-brainer in my personal opinion, but there are definitely other options out there. And then for our pants, we're running the Embered Stitch pants, which is just going to give me another 5% crit strike when our stamina is over 75%. For my main artifact, I'm wearing the Zealous Blast Scepter to give that sweet 15% damage reduction. And then I have the Arcturus Resonating Music Box, Beacon of Meteor Swarm, and the Mirrorlift set. Most of these are going to be there just for stat capping. However, I can switch to the Mirrorlift Mask and the Beacon of Meteor Swarm if I need to for group compositions. But there's other artifacts you can run out there as well. You can run Blades, you can run Demo. I mean, there are options out there, but this is what my setup looks like currently. So with that being said, are there any pieces that you guys would add or take away from this build so far? I would like to know. Enchantments, we're rocking a Kobold, Moonstone, and 2 Garnets in the offensive slot. We have a Jade in our utility slot, 4 Garnets in the defensive slot for that sweet defense. For our combat bonus, we're running Celestial Lightning for that 10.8% crit strike. And in our bonus, we're running that action point gain just for that 6%. For my overloads, I do swap these around quite often. Currently, right now, I'm running just a ward for the damage reduction for enemies in wild space. I don't run too much in my overload for my healer. And when I do, it's mainly going to be some type of ward. In my pure heals video, the last video I put out, instead of the lightning flash, I was using the divine aegis, which is a decent one. It increases your overall healing by 9%. So this is also another good option that you can have instead of running lightning flash. But with the pieces of gear that I'm running, I do need a little bit of crit strike that comes from the lightning flash, so that's what I'm using. My companions, I'm using Flapjack, which gives 5% combat advantage to all allies within 80 feet of me. My companion gear, I'm using 3 molten icons of the companion to give me 1650 forte healing. Obviously running a celestial companion enchantment, and I'm running build senses for that chance to reduce the enemy's awareness by 7.5% for 15 seconds. There's also the other option of running the armor break, which does almost the same thing. It reduces the enemy's defense by 7.5% for 15 seconds. Usually your tank is running this, so I usually stick with those senses. For my slotted companions, I'm using the Raptor to get that 18% power when in a party full of Raptors. For my defense, I have the Pink Yeti giving me 7.5% outgoing healing. My first universal slot, I'm using a Cunning Hunter to get 3.8% forte, as well as 3.8% outgoing healing. For the second universal slot, I'm running the Divine Judgment to get 3.8% crit strike and crit sev. And in my utility, I'm running the Golden Blood Pup Presence for the 7.5% outgoing healing. Now this loadout here does slightly differ from my previous video. So if you want to see the difference between the two, definitely check that out. My previous video is for pure heals. This video is more so for straight debuffing. So the heals are a little less. However, the bonus to the team, they're doing a lot more damage. So let me know, are you running the same companions on your debuff build or your pure heals build? And if it differs anyway, let me know in the comments. For our mounts, I'm running the E-Line as my combat power. This is going to provide a 15% damage increase to the enemy that I use it on, as well as it's going to make that same enemy output 15% less damage for 10 seconds. My equipped power is going to be Runic Aura, which is going to give out 2250 power and 2250 defense. There's definitely other options like Pack Tactic out there, Mystic Aura. I have those options as well, but for my current setup, this is how I am. And then for my stable, I have 3 Mender's Covenant and 1 Executioner's Covenant, and then 1 Survival Expertise, giving me a huge chunk of forte. I probably don't need 3 Mender's Covenants and an Executioner's Covenant, but that's how it was set up originally way back when. I just haven't gotten around to going back here and optimizing it and min-maxing my stable, but it is what it is. All right, so this is not a super in-depth guide, at least not compared to the last video. So right here, I'm just gonna kind of the debuffs that we put on them. So the first and easiest one is the chest piece. When we're inside of 10 feet of the enemy, we do get to apply the debuff on them. And here it is right here. Menacing Aura, decreasing the enemy's defense and awareness, and critical avoidance. This is when our enemy's inside of 10 feet. So if I step out of that 10 feet, there it is, that debuff falls off, right? Once I start hitting enemy first critical, there's our Marilith Dispelling, and then just a little bit more, there's all of our debuff. Well, let me get a little bit closer. And there's all of our debuffs that we're applying right now. So this one was a quick video. Like I said, my first video was more a tutorial or in-depth guide on the Warlock as far as the powers, the rotations and whatnot. This was just more of changes from video 1 to video 2. So if you want to get a more in-depth guide on powers and encounters and things like that, definitely check out the first video. All right, so this wraps up my go-to Warlock healing build for like in content, my sweaty build as some people would say. We went over everything from our companions to our mounts and gear. Like I said, this build does focus on the buffs and debuffs and not just healing boosts. I do hope you found this guide helpful and informative. If you have any questions or suggestions, or if there's just something you'd like me to cover in a future video, please drop a comment below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe.